YouTube. Why do I have so many problems and nobody else does? Okay, now I'm on. I guess I didn't click the button the correct amount of times, which is like 20, to get anything to work. So we'll try this again. Hopefully my iPad won't die. We'll see how many of you show up. Say hello to me in the chat if you're here. Oops, this was a non-scheduled live stream. So I don't know how many of you are going to show up, but the title should at least say enough. I want to talk about a couple of things today. Once some people start to show up, let me know if you're here. Say hello in the chat if you're here. I got a notification, which means, okay, my channel is live on YouTube. How about that? How about that? Let's see. So many emails today. So many emails. How is everybody doing? I was going to actually do a live stream, possibly tonight. Hey, Aaron, how's it going, brother? Can you hear me okay, my friends? Jamie, hey, Jamie, can you hear me okay? I kind of rigged this up very quickly. I wasn't sure if I was going to do a live stream tonight. As the title suggests, I got my new Slate VSX headphones today, and I was going to talk a little bit about that today, what limited time I have with it, and just talk through that, because some people have commented on our Facebook page, and a few of my students from Mixing Made 80. Hey, Alberta, what's up, brother? Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. Asked me about it. Some of my students over at Mixing Made Easy. You can hear great. Okay. Can hear you great. Awesome. Yep, for sure can hear clear. Excellent. Thank you, Jamie. And so I said, we're asking about it. This new VSX by Slate. I did buy it. I do have it. I just got it today. And there's a lot of people already doing YouTube reviews on it. I have a YouTube video scripted that I'm going to record, but one of the things I want to do is I want to spend some time with it before I do a proper review. I think this is the type of product that's a little premature to do a review when you first get it. And I want to talk a little bit about that if anyone had any questions about it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, we're talking about these. Hopefully it'll focus. The Slate VSX headphones with the software that emulates different control rooms and environments where your music can be played to help you get more accurate mixes that translate in more places. And so I did pick it up. I ordered it. I wasn't going to order it, to be honest with you. Some of you might have known I've already gotten new studio headphones that I do mixing on. And I'll be honest, the only reason why I bought it is because we do so much mixing training here on this channel, right? We do a ton of training around mixing at Home Recording Made Easy. We do a lot of recording as well, obviously, but we do a lot more in way of mixing. It seems to be the thing that people are most interested in. And so whenever a tool like this comes out, that is could be a potential really great tool for home recording mixers and home studio mixers, I thought I wanted to give it a try. And I'm also curious about it. So I broke out the good old credit card and I bought it and I got it in today. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that just to kind of give you my first initial impressions without doing a full review. We're live, Ian. I will do a full review on the Slate VSX once I've had some time to play with it. Before I, give my opinion of it. But I'll give you some of my first impressions. And then, again, leading off the title of the video, a sad day in the world of music. I know we're not a guitar channel here, but we're a music channel, right? And if you are a musician, and many of you are, and I have a lot of followers of all different age groups, people that are, from in their 70s all the way down to kids that are in their early 20s follow me, and everywhere in between. And a lot of people in the 35 to 55 age bracket. And so if you are one of those people and you are, a rock music lover from especially the 1980s into the 90s, then you know that Eddie Van Halen today passed away at the age of 65, young, sad. of throat cancer that he's been battling for many, many years. You may or may not know that he battled that for many, many years. And so that news came a few hours ago. I learned about it about 2 hours ago, and I'm still kind of stunned. He was, as a lot of people are doing on YouTube now, and I'm in this video, once we're done with the live broadcast, by tomorrow morning, I'm going to pull the video down. I'm not looking to make a bunch of, monetization on a video over Eddie Van Halen's passing. But because we are a music channel and we do a lot with music, I thought it was appropriate to pay our respect to Eddie Van Halen, and for folks that might be here or who are hearing this that isn't really familiar with his music. Maybe you're on the younger side and you know who he is, obviously, but maybe you were never into Van Halen, and you're not not into that style of music, and it wasn't on your radar per se. There were only a couple of, in my mind, a couple of guitar players in the last 60 years that have really changed the instrument, and how people approach the guitar. The first that comes to mind is Jimi Hendrix, obviously, a real innovator, changed the way the electric guitar was thought of, the way the electric guitar was played. And then the next person to really do that was Eddie Van Halen in late 1970s, around the 1977-78 time frame, where he really not only influenced the next generation of guitar players, but really changed the way the guitar was approached and played. And an icon in his right. And if you've listened to especially the first 5 or 6 Van Halen records, are some of the best rock music ever produced in that time frame, and will always be some of the best rock records of all time. And a lot of that had to do with, obviously, Eddie Van Halen's guitar playing, and he wrote most of the music, if not all of the music. So a very sad day in the world of rock. Certainly one of my guitar heroes, and one of the guys that made me want to pick up the instrument as a teenager and play. Not my main influence. My main influence is Jimmy Page, and still my favorite guitar player is Jimmy Page. But Eddie Van Halen was certainly the second person on that list. So a pretty sad day here in the world of rock. And again, we're not a guitar channel here, but we are a music channel, and so I don't know what you guys think about that. If any of you here listening or watching, were fans of Van Halen or Van Halen's music, and what your thoughts are. If you want to leave a comment, certainly do that. So anyway, so it's kind of difficult to want to come on here and do a full-on product review after hearing such terrible news. But I did get, like I said, the beautiful box that it comes in, the VSX. Let me see if I can put this right. And so this came in today, and I got it opened and got it installed, and everything was a pretty straightforward process on how to get everything installed. And here are the headphones. And so the headphones are, some of the criticism that I've heard about these when I was watching some of the YouTube videos while I was waiting for mine to arrive. I ordered it, I think on Thursday of last week, and coming from California all the way to the East Coast took a few extra days. So I was watching some of the other videos of people who got them right away. And one of the things that people mentioned is that they thought that they felt kind of cheap or kind of chintzy. And I wouldn't say that. I would say they're very lightweight. And when I do my YouTube video, I'm going to compare them to the Sennheiser HD700s that you've all seen me use. And then more recently, if you've been watching me, I've upgraded to the Neumann headphones, which I really like. I'm going to kind of compare those three and do like a full proper review. But I wouldn't say that these things are chintzy in any way. They are very lightweight. They are plastic. They feel really comfortable when you put them on. I will say that. I mean, when you put them on, the first thing, what I do like about them is they're very slim and they are very lightweight. And you can wear these for many, many hours, I would suspect, without having them feel heavy or uncomfortable. One of the things that I don't like about the Neumanns, as much as I love them, and they are great for mixing, is they're big. You can see how big the ear cups are compared to these. They're all metal on the outside. They're a more heavy-duty construction, and they have a thicker ear cushion than these. But they are a little bit heavy. I wouldn't say overly heavy, the Neumanns. but I mean, they're certainly not as comfortable as these. These almost feel like, if I had to compare them to any kind of other commercial headphone, like a listening pleasure headphone, would maybe be like the Bose, you know, the sound isolation ones, even though they don't claim to be sound isolating, but they are closed back, but they feel like that. They feel light and slim. Hey, Eric, what's going on, brother? Oh, Ian, got to take off? That's okay. Hey, thanks for stopping in. And so they feel good. You know, some people said they're cheap. They feel chintzy. They feel kind of plasticky. I don't know. I didn't pick them out of the box and went, well, they're kind of flimsy. They feel okay. So one of the things you do when you register these and you download the software, there's a little video that Stephen Slate comes on and kind of gives you a few kind of pointers on how to get started with these things and, you know, what the kind of process is. Because the first thing that everybody's going to do, and I've seen do this on YouTube already, is, you know, they jump on there, they open up their latest mix and they start mixing with them. And just like with any other kind of speaker system or any kind of headphone, it's important that you really learn the headphones and learn how they sound and understand what they sound like. And so one of the things that Stephen recommended is that you listen to them for about an hour with commercially released reference tracks or things that you know very, very well. I guess it could be one of your final mixes or one of your finished mixes that you know very well, very intimately, or a bunch of different commercial material. And so that's what I did. So I was listening to and I really can't do this here because I'll get copyright stricken and I don't want to do that. I'll pull up the screen in a second so you guys can kind of see the interface, although you've seen it on YouTube if you've been watching this, been looking at the video for this stuff. But I've been listening to some commercial music on them, bringing them into Studio One and just kind of listening through and how do these sound compared to what I'm used to hearing in my headphones. And my first initial impressions were that they sound... it almost, to me, around that 1 to 3K mark where it gets a little bit ear piercing, a little bit ear fatiguing, it almost seems like it has a little bit of harshness to it. Now, because I was listening to commercial releases and not my own mix, because, you know, I didn't want to open up one of my mixes because that could have been just a problematic frequency area in my mix. I wanted to listen to stuff that was professionally mixed, mastered, and released commercially. And so I listened to some blues and to some pop and to some rock. Again, only listening for maybe 20 or 30 minutes. I haven't had these that long, several hours today. That's it. And I've been doing other things, so I haven't spent a lot of time with them. But they seem like they were a little harsh. And then when I open up, and I guess I can do this so you guys can see this. Let's see here. Let me open up my screen here. And let me switch over to my Studio One screen. Hopefully that'll switch. And so the way, whoops, I can go back over here to my other screen. So the way you use this is you have, whoops, come on. So here is the VSX interface, so the plugin. So you download this plugin. Think of this a lot like the Wave Studio Abbey Road 3. We've looked at that plugin before, both on a live stream, and there's a YouTube video I did for it. Where you have some, you know, room emulation, if you will, where the Abbey Road Studio plugin is just the Abbey Road control room. That's the whole point of it, right? Where this is similar to that in that you have a bunch of different rooms or different environments that you can listen to your mix in or to the commercial music in. So what I was doing is I was listening into the different environments. And although Stephen also recommends that you just don't bounce around from one to the other, that you kind of pick one or two that you kind of like and kind of get used to the way that particular room or environment sounds. And again, I haven't spent too much time with this to really follow that instruction to his, you know, absolute suggestion. But I was bouncing around with these commercial mixes to see, you know, like I said, when I first put them on, I said, wow, they seem a little harsh in that upper mid-range area. And as I was cycling through the different rooms and the different areas, with the exception of the club setting, I noticed all those environments had that same harshness might be not the right word, but it was ear fatiguing. I got to tell you, and I wasn't listening to them very loudly. And I've only checked a couple of commercial mixes. I have to do some more referencing. I haven't even tried to listen to one of my mixes yet on these things. So the way this works is you put this on the last chain on your master bus. Now, if you're using Studio One, you can implement or use the new Listen bus. The Listen bus is great because you put this on the Listen bus, and this does not affect what goes on your master output. So when you go to export your song, this will not, the emulation of the EQ curve or all the voodoo that they're doing in the headphones will not translate to the print, if that makes any sense. It won't print on there. So it's just for monitoring. The Listen bus is just for monitoring. If you're not using Studio One, and let's say you're using something like Cubase, where you'd put this as the last plugin in your master bus, then when you go to export, it will automatically bypass. There's a setting here where it says auto bypass on export. It's enabled. So like with SonarWorks, I think the new version SonarWorks will automatically disable, but on the older versions of SonarWorks, if you forgot to turn off the plugin, you would print that EQ curve onto your mix, right? And then it would sound horrible when you took it out of your space. It wouldn't translate. It wouldn't translate well. I think on the new version of SonarWorks Reference 4, there's an auto bypass feature as well. And Slate has that as well here. So you don't have to worry if you don't have something like a Listen bus like we do in Studio One. But in Studio One, it makes it really, really simple. And you put it on the last, and then what you do is you get used to and pick an environment that you want to mix in. And when you switch, a real clever thing that they have here, they have a 2-second delay between environments to kind of let your ears reset and kind of recalibrate for a couple of seconds between switching from one environment to the other. Because the one thing that I noticed is these environments in these headphones sound vastly different from each other, which you would suspect they ought to. Now you can turn that little 2-second feature off here, but again, Steven suggests that you leave it on, and it probably makes sense that you would leave it on. The other thing he suggests that you do, because when you play this back, can I do this where you can't hear it? Yeah, let me do this so you don't hear the music. Because again, I don't want to, this is all commercial music. I don't have the rights to play this. I can't do it though, because you guys can't. If I turn down the faders, you won't be able to. Let me just see if this. Anyway, yeah, it's not going to work like that. But anyway, you can see the master bus here. This song is mastered, so it's running at like a -0.5 of a dB because it's already limited. Where on the Listen bus, if I were to turn up this Listen bus and play it, it's running at about a -6 dB. So what happens is it actually lowers the volume. It has some kind of detections where it lowers the volume. So when you go to bypass this plugin to hear it on and off, they suggest that you do it from this level matching thing here down in the corner, this thing called level bypass. And what that does is it keeps everything at the same volume level so you don't have a big volume jump, because the volume is actually louder than what you're hearing on the Listen bus, if that makes any sense. And when you do that, it'll say speaker modeling is now bypassed. So you could get a quick A/B at the same volume level. How does it sound with VSX? How does it sound without VSX? Which is the way you want to do it. You don't want to have a big volume difference between before and after. It's like level matching a compressor or any one of our plugins that when we do our mixing that we talk about all the time, right? So that's a cool feature. So it's a simple layout. It has a bunch. What does it have? 4, 8, and then if you scroll over, 8 rooms, and then 5 sets of headphones. The non-linear headphone is where supposedly these things are very flat, okay? And that's where I think you would do most of your mixing, in the flat stage, and then you're checking them on these other individual elements as you're getting towards the end of your mix to emulate different places where this music can be consumed, whether it be an SUV or a car or on a boombox or in a club. They also have these things called the AirPods, that I guess the SA Pods, which is more like, the Apple earbuds, those kinds of things. The M450s, I believe, are a Sony emulation. These are very bass heavy, I found. The 650s are the Sennheiser 650s. The 770s, I'm not sure what those are. I think those might be the Aerodynamics, if I'm not mistaken. And again, they all sound vastly different from each other. So this will be an interesting thing to play with. And like I said, hey, Chris, how's it going, man? I'll get to the chat in a second. If you guys want to ask questions, I can certainly chat with you guys for a bit. So this is an interesting tool. And that's what it is. It's a tool. Now, one of the things I want to make sure that my students and people who have asked me about this, the few people that have emailed me and asked me before I bought these, what I thought of this and how, is this going to help you be a better mixer? Well, I think what you want to be careful of is this just like any other plugin is not a magic bullet. This is not going to make you a better mixer. What this is going to do is this kind of a tool is going to help you maybe get to the end of a mix that you already know how to produce because you're learning how to mix, whether it's through me or someone else's training, and you're getting better at the craft. And if you can already turn out great mixes, this is going to help you get to the end game faster. This will help you not have to take your song and run around to the car and run all over the place. You can do a lot of your referencing right in your studio. And this seems to, again, when I tested this and listened back to the car and the SUV, it sounds like what it would sound like in a car. It's pretty impressive. Same thing with the boombox, because I referenced on a boombox for many years, and it has that boombox characteristic. So it's definitely something cool. Like I said, the only thing that really kind of puzzled me, I guess, or struck me a little bit was that even listening to just commercial music, not one of my mixes, okay? These, in any one of these environments, some more than others, seem to be harsh sounding to me. And again, if it was one of my mixes I was listening to, I would have thought, oh yeah, well, that's because your mix has a harsh frequency in there that you're not hearing in your mixing environment or your current mixing headphones, and this is pointing that out. But because I'm listening to this on commercially released, mixed and mastered music, different genres of music, and some of these songs, a couple of the songs I listened to were mixed by like Bob Clearmountain and Chris Lord-Alge. I mean, you're talking about the best of the best, right? So their mixes don't sound harsh. So I wonder why that is. And I have to do a little bit more research. It could be I'm just not used to them because, again, I maybe listened to these for about 30 minutes. It could be that the headphones need to break in a little bit. Although Stephen Slate did not say that in his little welcome video that I watched when I registered my product. But that could be it too. The one thing that did intrigue me about the headphones before I bought them, one of the things that I saw as part of the Slate's marketing material is they claim to be using a beryllium tweeter, a beryllium speaker cone. And beryllium is something I'm very familiar with because Focal studio monitors use beryllium. And it's one of the things that make the Focal speaker sound so sweet and never harsh. It's one of the reasons why I love them, and that's what makes Focal one of the reasons why they're renowned as one of the best sounding monitors on the market is for the fact that they sound smooth and sweet, and they don't have that harshness, and that has to do with, according to Focal, the beryllium tweeter. So when I heard that these had beryllium cones in them, I thought, oh, it may be somewhat reminiscent of my Focals. I don't get that right off the bat. And again, it just could be because, I have to get used to them, and I have to listen to them more. So before I jump on YouTube and give, my, hey, this is what I think of these things, I really want to work with them, listen to more music on them. And then more importantly, and again, Steven suggests this, you could go back to an old mix, open it up and remix, but it would probably be more beneficial for me to start a mix from scratch and mix these from scratch and start there, see where I end up, and then pop that mix on my studio monitors because it'll bypass the plugin if I'm on the listen bus, and hear how it kind of translates from the cans to the Focals. That'll be an interesting test, and that'll give me an opportunity. Then once I've done that a couple of times, I'll be able to give you guys a more informative review, and because I know a lot of my students are going to say, hey, should I go out and buy these things? They're $479 US for the headphones and with the software that you see on the screen. from a price point comparison, that's pretty much in the ballpark to a mid-tier studio mixing headphone. My Sennheiser HD700s were $400, I believe, and my Neumanns were $500. So, and those don't come with software, with this, fancy dancy plug-in here. So I would say from a price perspective, it's a fair price. I don't think it's way out of the ballpark as far as price goes. But at the end of the day, is this going to help me make a better mix? Now, one of the things that, again, I probably bought, I bought this product for really two reasons. The more important reasons, I really bought this so I can review it and pass on the information to my students, to be totally honest, because this is something that could be potentially a game changer for some of you who are not mixing in the ideal environment, whether it's not acoustically treated properly or whether you're on the road and you're mixing from a laptop or whatever. And this might be something that could be very beneficial to a lot of the people that follow me. So that was the main reason why I really bought it. It wasn't that I was in the market for a new pair of headphones. I just bought a new pair of headphones. And when I do mixing for clients, I mix on studio monitors and my mixes translate 100% because I'm using my focals, as I said. I also check the mixes on, I have Avatones, the little mix cubes. I have 2 of those, and those things were a godsend as far as really helping me dial in the mid-range of a mix. Those things are awesome if you have a chance to pick them up. And the other big game changer for me, to be totally honest, I mentioned this a few months ago, a couple of live streams ago, was the Focal subwoofer that I picked up as the matching set with my Focal near fields. That, once I got that dialed in, really changed the game as far as making my mixes really super accurate. And since I've made those 3 changes, added the Avatones and added the sub, I've since done 4 different client mix projects. Each one of those clients, 3 of them had 3 songs or more as like a EP, and then one recently I just did 1 song. And so these mixes went out to 4 different artists. Some of the bands had multiple members in the band listening to it on God only knows what environment. Every single one of those mixes that I did came back with either 1 or 2 very small revisions, or most of them, no revisions at all. None. And we're talking about dance music, hard rock, heavy metal music, 1 country tune. And for the most part, they love the mixes. So I know this room, I know the speakers, I know this room is tuned, and I know I could get a mix to translate. I never have to leave this control room, and those mixes translate every single time. Will that happen on these? I don't know. Time will tell. So I really didn't need to get these, but and I like new and cool technology. I like this kind of shit. So I figured I would check it out, and I will bring you a very fair and honest and unbiased review once I feel like I have enough information to really either recommend it or tell you, you know what, you really don't need this. Some of you may have already gone out and bought it. Some of you may say, I'm going to check it out anyway. You have a couple extra $100 burning a hole in your wallet, and that's cool. My first impressions are, like I said, it's not a crappy product. I think it could be very, very great potential, but it's something you have to get used to. The one thing you have to be careful about when you start talking about checking your mixes in different simulated or emulated environments like this is that you have so many things you can check it on, which is great. But the trap you could fall into is if, like Steven had mentioned in his video, if you're bouncing back and forth every 15 minutes from one room to another, you're going to be constantly making changes, trying to make it sound perfect in every environment. And the reality is, it's never going to sound perfect in every environment. No mix will. The key to this stuff is to try to strike the balance of, okay, it sounds well balanced in most of these areas. It's not way boomy or it's not way thin. Some areas, some rooms are going to sound a little bit different than others, right? And so it's trying to strike the balance. And or if you know where your mix is going to be consumed. In other words, today, when I mix for clients, one of the first questions that I ask them is, what is the plan for the music? In other words, are you using it to put up on your website? Are you going to put it on streaming Spotify and iTunes? Are you planning on printing those old silver things called CDs and giving them out at your club, at your gigs? where is this music going to be consumed? Or is it going to be consumed in all of those places? Because the way I mix the song, especially the low end, will depend on where I feel the music is going to end up. So if I know that the majority of music today is consumed on streaming services and Apple earbuds and smartphones and crappy laptop speakers and those kinds of things, then I'm going to be mixing more for the boombox type of a room. I guess if you double click on this, it'll blow up. Yeah. Mixing on for something like this, or something like my Avitones that I constantly check on, because you want the low end to cut through the kick, the click of the kick, the bass. You want to be able to hear, you don't want to lose all of that in these small speakers. If I know, so I may mix it with a little more low ends. Okay. If I know it's going to be consumed mostly on CD and it's going to be, kind of old school, I may not do that. I may be a little bit more conservative with the low end. So when you put them in cars, you're not, especially cars with big sound systems like SUVs, you're not, blowing the place out because the low end is too much. So that's where this can be, I think, very helpful. But you got to make sure that you just don't bounce back and forth, because I think it'll just screw your brain up. You'll never get the mix to sound right. You'll spend your whole life tweaking things away. And so I don't, that's just the one thing you'd want to be aware of. So let's see, is anybody in the chat? We have, almost 40 people. Great. Let's see who's here. Let's see here. Is there any questions? And again, we're also talking earlier about, you've heard me ranting on about the Slate, SVX, right? VSX, SVX, Steven's going to watch VSX, sorry. But yeah, you saw the title of the video and, again, Eddie Van Halen passing away today. Very, very sad day. Maybe not really didn't want to come on here and even talk about this stuff. I'm pretty down about that, as I'm sure a lot of you are as well. One of my heroes for sure. Let's see who else is here, and let's see. Sad news. Ian says the mixer I got is actually used and has some damage on it, so I'm going to wait until I receive more PUA from EDD to buy the 32. Oh, okay. So you're going to be getting the 32 SX. I think that's the PreSonus. Oh, and you had to go. Okay. Oh, hey, John, what's up from Chile? How are you? And Eric's here. Hey, Eric. Eric says, I have the 770 Pros and the Avitone Pro, and they're both good but different. Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I think you got to have a couple of different references, speakers, headphones, or otherwise, that are different from each other. I mean, you don't want them to be exactly the same. The question becomes, how many becomes too much? How many areas are you going to reference things in? Some people will say the more things you can reference on, the better. I'm a different school of thought. I think you need to pick one or two, three at most, and mix for those things, and not have an unlimited amount of areas that you're checking your mix in, because like I said, I don't know that you'll ever get a mix to translate perfectly in every situation. Hey Chris, what's up? Jamie says, could those guys have lost hearing that high, and that's actually accurate to studios they work out of, with boosted harshness? I don't I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. That's I would find that hard to believe. I don't know. I can't imagine. And again, I know it's not my ears. And again, maybe again, I should be careful to say that, I'm going to listen to him for a couple of days and let me see if I still have that impression about the harshness. But that was my first impression. I don't know. I hope that's not the case. Let's see. That's my forte. Hey, that's my forte, David. I got the VSX because I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling starting at the end of the month. Felt this was the best option for me. And that's what it claims to be. And I think it probably will be a good option for you. I would just say, get used to them. Do what Steven recommends, which is listen to a lot of commercial release music on them before you try to start jumping in and mixing. Get a chance to really understand the headphones before and know what they sound like. And then I would suggest that in the software here, that maybe you pick one or two of the main things that you're going to mix from. In other words, what are you going to mix out of the the NRG Studio, and if you like the way that sounds, you have near fields, midfields, and far field monitors, much like the Abbey Road, and just mix on that one room, maybe cycling through those 3 sets of monitors and do a full mix on that room. And then maybe towards the end of your mix, again, maybe then browsing and checking one of the car environments or the boombox. I think if you take that approach, you may have better results. That would be my guess. That's how I'm going to try to do it when I do it. And I think that's what Steven kind of recommends. And so if he's recommending that, that's what I think I'm going to try to do. But I think it could be a good solution. It really depends. Woodby says, Dave, pricey? $479, I said earlier, which again is not bad when you think about the fact that if it was just the headphones by themselves, $500, $479, that's in the ballpark of the the Sennheiser HD700s. It's in the ballpark of the Neumanns. I mean, I think you can get some Sennheisers a little bit cheaper than that, but it's within reason. It's not skyrocket prices, and you get the software with it. So I think it's a fair price for what it is. I think it's a fair price so far. Let's see. Immaculate Music. Greatest guitarist of my era by far. Rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen. Yeah. Like I said earlier, there were 2 guys. There was the only other person that I can think of, in my opinion, and I'm a guitar player, like a lot of you guys, or some of you anyway. The only other person there's only 2 people in my lifetime that I can think of that changed the instrument. I mean, changed the way we thought of the guitar, the way people approached and played the guitar, and had that kind of an impact. Obviously, Jimi Hendrix. And then the only other person after that is Eddie Van Halen. I mean, a lot of people say, well, what about Jeff Beck and Eric Clapton and Jimmy Page, the 3 guys from the Yardbirds? And believe me, I love those 3. Jimmy Page is my favorite guitar player, even more so than Eddie Van Halen. He was my main influence. Eddie Van Halen was second on the list for me. But Jimmy Page didn't change the way we played the instrument. He wasn't an innovation in that respect. Awesome songwriter, some of the greatest rock riffs ever written, great producer. Led Zeppelin, one of the greatest, if not the greatest rock and roll band of all time, and them, the Stones, I mean, the Who, you're in that, class of people. But Jimmy Page didn't change the instrument, He made it cool, but he didn't change it. Neither did Eric Clapton or Jeff Beck, in my mind. Eddie Van Halen was an innovator, and really did something that no one had ever done before to where, Jimmy Page there isn't people running around for the last 30 years, painting and striping their guitars like Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page played a 59 Les Paul. Eddie Van Halen created his own instrument. You all saw the stripes, right? That's quintessential Van Halen. He invented that whole thing. There are very few people on the planet that you can say that about. Even since Eddie Van Halen, I can't think of any other guitar player. I mean, yeah, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, awesome. I mean, amazing virtuosos on the guitar. Some would say could probably technically run circles around Eddie Van Halen from a technicality point of view. I don't know if that's that extreme, but masters of their craft, but they didn't change the face of the guitar like Eddie Van Halen. Some people would say Randy Rhoads maybe. But Randy Rhoads, unfortunately, passed way too early. I think he passed at 23 or 24 years old. He wasn't around long enough to leave a mark like Eddie Van Halen. But I guess if you had to think of the third guy, maybe Randy Rhoads is in that conversation as well. And I'm a huge Randy Rhoads fan too. So, but I don't think he's at that same stature as Eddie Van Halen, because I put him in the Jimi Hendrix conversation. It's those 2 guys. And so, yeah, sad. Lucas says, hey, Lucas. Hi, what are your thoughts of versus SonarWorks? Well, here's the thing with SonarWorks. I like SonarWorks. SonarWorks doesn't work with Studio One version 5, by the way. If you've been watching my videos for the last 2 months, you know that. This one seems to work fine. Look, I can move it around the screen. It doesn't hiccup like SonarWorks. Here's the thing about SonarWorks. Where I think this is a more full-featured product is in that SonarWorks is nothing more than an EQ that if you're using the headphone plugin, that if you have a generic set of headphones they will have a list of what they call headphone profiles that you can download. And let's say you have the Sennheiser HD650s. They have a profile for that. They put an EQ on your master bus. That's it. There's no different room emulations or anything like that. And even if you have a pair of Sennheiser HD650s, as in this example, every single one of those pairs sounds slightly different. So you're getting more of a generic profile. Now, SonarWorks, you can actually either purchase headphones for them, or I think for $100, you can ship them your headphones, and they will, put your headphones on a meter, on a scope, take all the measurements around it and create a profile specifically for your set of headphones, which is cool. I've never done that, but that's a cool feature. And I'm sure that's great. However, it doesn't give you the ability to monitor different environments like this does. So from a feature set, I would say this is better than that. Plus this is made with, for these specific headphones. So I would look at it like that. Does some of the same thing, put it on your master bus, it puts an EQ on it, and then you take off and then you print your mix. But this is more involved than that. Hope that makes sense. Let's see. Leon says, I have a pair. Cool. How do you like them? I was involved in the beta testing. Awesome. Then you have a hell of a lot more experience than I do. Well, let me ask you then, if you are in the beta testing, did you experience or do you experience what I feel like I'm experiencing the first 30 or 40 minutes that I listened to this? You may have just stopped in. I don't know if you heard me say this earlier, where I was listening to commercial music, not my own mixes, blues track by Joe Bonamassa, a couple of female vocal dance tracks, variety of different songs. And what I seem to hear in these headphones, regardless of what I pick in the software as far as the environment goes, it seems like there's like a harshness to it. It feels like it's in that 1 to 3K area. Normally where the vocal gets a little nasally and it kind of irritates the ear. And my ears seem to get fatigued pretty quickly. And that surprised me. Did you experience that during the beta testing? Or if anyone else is here that has this thing that's used it for more than 30 minutes like me, did you experience that, or is it just me and I just need to spend some more time with it, which could very well be the case. I'm not down on the product yet. I just got it. But that's what I was hearing. I'd be interested to know if anyone else had experienced that. You're saying that the bass extension is incredible. Yeah, I will say the low end in it is impressive. I will absolutely say that. The way they did the design with the porting and stuff, it's very impressive. I like the fact, as I said earlier, they're nice and lightweight. They remind me a lot of the Bose Quiet Comfort, I think they call it. Not the sound isolation piece of it, but just the feel and the fit. These you could wear for many, many hours and not feel uncomfortable. Whereas these Neumanns that I recently switched to, which again, I really like, this is the K&H or KHD 20s, I think these are called. And these were $500, but these are heavy on the head. But they sound amazing, and I love mixing on them. I'm used to them. And these are a closed back as well. But they're not as comfy as these. They're not as lightweight as these. So anyhow. Let me see here. Go scroll up here. Make sure I didn't miss anybody. Let's see. Basic extension, incredible. Okay, Kelly, let's see. Lucas says, normal near fields that we are used to, and the Amatones, mix in mono, check in mono, live in mono, and your stereo will be heaven. Yeah, I used to mix in mono an awful lot. Yep, good to have a ton of opinions. A ton of options, though. Yeah, Van John, I don't disagree. Woodby says, what is beta testing? Beta testing is usually when you're involved behind the scenes before the public gets the hold of the product. A lot of times companies will reach out to users and people in the industry to give them the product ahead of time before the public has it, to test it and to give feedback to, in this case, Slate Digital, so they can make any tweaks or corrections if needed before it actually goes live. That's what beta testing is. Listen to tons of music on it first for like an hour to get your ears out. Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing today. I watched the little video by Stephen Slate, as I said earlier, and I'm listening to commercial releases before I even open up one of my mixes. I'm not ready to do a mix on them yet. I was just curious if they sound a little harsh to me, which surprised me on a commercial release. But again, I just have to get used to it and see. Let's see. You talking about beta testing? Cool. Immaculate Music says those two only, Hendrix and Eddie Van Halen. I agree. Yeah. I don't, and that's not to say there's not a bunch of other great guitar players before and since them. Of course there are, like I said, Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck. I mean, three icons. Slash, if you want to move up in time a little bit, none of those guys were Eddie Van Halen. And then they would be the first to say that, by the way, right? Would be the first to say that. Yeah, Would-Be says Eddie and his hammer-ons and his tapping. Yep. I mean, I know he wasn't the first to do it, and I think he admits he wasn't the first to do it, but he took it to a place that no one ever even, I mean, it's insane, right? I mean, and then in the 80s, everybody tried to copy it, right? All the hair metal bands of the 80s. I mean, if you go back, I like to watch those interviews on YouTube and, VH1 Classics where they talk to a lot of the 80s hair metal bands, talking to them today, reflecting on their period of when they were in the heyday. And they said by the time after Van Halen 1 and 2 came out, every 80s hair band had to have an Eddie Van Halen clone. Everybody was tapping. Everybody was playing that flashy style guitar in the 80s. He started a trend. He started something that everyone copied for the next 10 years, So when you do that, you're an icon, you are an icon. Let's see. I used to use my HD 650s with SonarWorks. After I got the Slate VSX, I uninstalled the SonarWorks and put away my 650s. Well, that's a pretty powerful statement. I'll have to see in about 2 or 3 weeks if I would agree with you, but that's promising. I'm glad that you're having a great experience with it. Let's see here. Let's see. Are you broadcasting using OBS? Yes. Yes. They are designed to make the mids as neutral as possible. Yeah, neutral is one thing. Harsh is something different. But yeah, I see what you said next to it. It'll take some time to get used to. Yeah. That's why I'm not on here saying, this product, the hype isn't blah, 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 because you got to get used to them. And one of the other things that I noticed too, I mean, you used them for a while on the beta testing, so you've had some time to really sit with them. But I mean, there's a lot of people out there making YouTube videos. They got the thing and in less than 24 hours, they're telling you how they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. And that to me, if you've been mixing for any length of time and you're really a mixing engineer and you've been doing this for a long time, just what you said and just what I've said when I first got on here, any monitoring system that you're mixing on takes time to get used to. And to make claims like that after only listening to them for 15 minutes, I don't know, is a little, I think unfair. I think a little too hyped. And again, that's fine if that's their opinion. And, I don't know what experience level those YouTubers are at as far as what they're doing. But I'm not going to get on here and tell you they sound amazing. And I'm not going to get on here and tell you they sound terrible. I'm just telling you that so far they're okay. I like them. I have to get used to them. They sounded a little harsh to me, but that was my first impression. And I was just bouncing around. I've only spent 30 minutes with them. When I spend 2 or 3 weeks with them and I actually get used to the way they sound and I do a couple of mixes on them, then I'll be able to really report back and say to you, this is what I think of it. Is it something I'm going to continue to use? Is it something that I would recommend my students maybe checking out for themselves if they don't have a really good monitoring system in their studio that's acoustically treated properly and all that stuff? And I'm hoping that they're great. I'm hoping I'm going to love it. That's what I'm hoping. Because it is cool. And again, Slate always makes great stuff. I mean, you all know I have all his plugins. I've never seen a product that he's put out. Oh, actually, I'm wrong about that. The Raven was terrible. Now, I bought one of the first Ravens. You go back and watch my YouTube video from 5 or 6 years ago, or however long it was. The Raven did not live up to the expectation that I thought it would. Now, they've put out some new revisions of it, and it may be much, much better. I don't know, but I had real high hopes of the Raven, and it just did not. It did not work for me. Other than that, all his products I've ever had of Steven Slate's have been home runs. So excellent. Let's see. Any other questions? What do we got? So 30, 28, 30 people here. Cool. I love... Tony says Artura. Oh, Arturi. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how it's technically pronounced. I'm sorry if I pronounce it wrong in the video. Woodby says, great description on EVH. Thanks. Who knows how to pronounce? I thought it was Artura is how I always pronounce it. And then someone said, no, it's Arturi. And then I watched a few different videos of people pronouncing it. And guess what? They all pronounce it differently. So I don't know what the name is. And I spoke to the owner of the company, Tom, who actually gave me 15 licenses to give away as free plugins over at mixingmadeeasy.net. And he didn't say anything about me pronouncing it incorrectly. And I've had several conversations with him since my videos have gone live because he's thanked me very much for them. So they kind of pseudo sponsored it in that I did the review. They gave me the plugins for myself for free. I really do like their plugins. And then they gave me licenses to give away to my students. So I don't know. Tony says, wasn't the old standard never use headphones to mix? That might be the old standard. I have a couple of videos on my YouTube channel talking about the pros of mixing with headphones, and there are a lot of them, and there are a lot better headphones today than there were maybe, I don't know, you're saying old standard, maybe many, many years ago. I still prefer to mix on monitors than headphones. I only mix on the majority of time I use headphones is when I'm doing mixing for my training tutorials, right? Because I'm doing voiceover, and so I don't want the sound coming from the monitors bleeding into the mic. So I use headphones. So I do a lot of mixing in training courses and live streams and things on headphones. When I mix client work, I don't do that. I mix on my focals with my Avitones, and then I check them on headphones. But you can get great mixes on headphones. You could get great mixes on anything if you learn the monitoring system that you're using. So headphones are sometimes a necessary evil for a lot of folks that don't have the mixing environment. They don't have the acoustic treatment. Or like someone mentioned here, they do a lot of traveling. So they need to be able to mix on headphones. And so, yes, you can mix on headphones and get great mixes. The key to it is just like what we've been talking about throughout this live stream, is getting used to them. And knowing your speaker system, whether it's your speakers, whether it's your headphones, whatever you're monitoring on, to really know how mixes are supposed to sound, commercial reference tracks. And then when you mix, and we talk a lot about this on this channel, especially over at mixingmadeeasy.net, we talk about mixing using reference tracks. And don't ever do a mix without using a reference track of a commercially released song of the kind of the sonic characteristics that you're going for or the style of mix you're going for. Because once you know how that commercially released mastered track sounds on your listening environment, it gives you kind of the roadmap to how to mix your music. And that's why reference tracks are so important. So yeah, I don't know, maybe way back in the day, it wasn't preferred to mix on headphones. I think today it's much more common and it's more of a necessary evil for a lot of people. Let's see. What happens is this. If you don't have a good monitoring system in a poorly treated room, when you mix the system, you will get when you mix with this system and you will get great results. It's amazing. Right. If you don't have the right room with the right treatment, you're making mixing decisions on sound you're hearing from your speakers, and what you're hearing isn't accurate. This system eliminates a lot of that problem. Takes the room out of the mix. You don't need to worry about the room. You don't need to worry about acoustic treatment anymore. But, the headphones are right on your ears. They're pumping right in your ears. There's no space between you and the sound. It's some of the downfall. In my mind, when you mix on headphones for long periods of time, you need to mix at low volumes. You should be doing that anyway, even on speakers, but especially headphones to not fatigue the ears. You fatigue the ears will start to compress. When the ears start to compress, and they naturally will do that to protect themselves, the very first thing you do is lose perception of the high end. And then you end up jacking up the high end, and then you come back the next day and everything sounds like a bunch of ice picks being thrown at you. So there is a system, or a little bit of a technique, if you will, to working with headphones if you're going to mix, but it certainly can be done. And it does. And again, go watch my video on, I think it's called 10 tips to mixing with 10 pro tips to mixing with headphones. And I talk in a lot of detail about why it's a good idea. The main reason is you don't have to worry about the room and all that's involved with getting a good sounding room. John Clark. Hey, John. Should these be an option for buying more sound treatment? Should these be an option for buying more sound treatment, expensive foam stuff? Well, this would be a replacement for that. I think that's what you might have meant, right? The way you worded it. This would be kind of a replacement. Yeah, just what I said. Using a system like the Slate VSX allows you to take the acoustic treatment and the room and the environment you're in completely out of the equation, which is huge, by the way. I mean, that's the number one problem mixing in a home studio environment. The number one problem is that the mix doesn't normally translate out of the room. And the reason why it doesn't translate, meaning if you don't know what that term means for new folks that are here, meaning that you get it to sound amazing in your room. And then you take that thing and go put it in your car or go listen to it on your headphones or on your earbuds or smartphone or however you listen to music. And it doesn't sound the same. It sounds like garbage. And 9 out of 10 times, the problem with the mix is typically the low end. That's because the judgments that you were making with EQ and balance in your studio wasn't accurate. What you were hearing out of those speakers wasn't accurate due to the poor acoustics of the room and normally the lack of appropriate, and I underline that word, appropriate acoustic treatment. Okay. So when you have a room that's not accurate, you can't make good mixing decisions. How could you? Right? This kind of a system eliminates all of that. And so now, once you're used to your headphones, you should be able to deliver more consistent mixes and be able to hear more accurately if the system itself is designed properly. And that's what I'm going to find out over the next few weeks. So yeah. You're saying you use less plugins to mix now. That's great. Tony says, never, ever buy foam treatment panels or bass traps. Useless. Sorry, Auralex. Well, I don't use Auralex. I used it in the past. I think they make some good products. I use acoustic treatment from a company down in Florida called Acoustimac. I've talked about this before. It's on the YouTube channel. Search acoustic treatment on my YouTube channel. You'll see I did a tour a few years back of all the acoustic treatment that I have. And I have a lot of acoustic treatment in this room. You know, it was measured, it was done scientifically. I didn't just slap it up on the walls, you know. But there's a method to the madness. And I will say, even when I shot my room out with the SonarWorks and their little measurement microphone, I did that recently when I got my sub in. My room was scary close to being flat. I mean, I was really surprised how good it was. You know, I'd like to say I'm a genius and it was all planned that way, but some of it is I'm in a pretty big space. It's not a square room. I don't have perfectly parallel walls and stuff. So I don't have a problem in this room. And so that's why my mixes always translate well. Plus, like we said earlier, if you know the room, even if it's a little inaccurate, if you know how to compensate for that, because you mix in it all the time and you know your speakers, you know your room, you know how your mix translates and what compensation that you may need to make, you can mix in any environment if you mix in the place long enough. But again, I think a system like this, you know, really helps take that problem completely away. So again, I think it's very promising. There's nothing on the market that I know of that's quite like this. And like SonarWorks is similar, but not really. The Waves Abbey Road Studio plugin that we did a review of about 6 months ago, very similar to this, but it's just emulating the Abbey Road control room, which by the way is great, but it's only emulating that one space. It doesn't do what this does. The only plugin that even comes close to this that doesn't include headphones or anything is the is a plugin by the company Audified called the Mix Checker Pro. And I've done a review on that about a year ago, where they give you a bunch of different listening environments, everything from cars to studios to earbuds to radios. And you can, in the same kind of concept, you put it on the master bus and you can flip between those different environments. Not as flashy as this. Doesn't come with a great set of headphones paired with it, so I can't really give you a fair comparison, but it's the same concept as this. I don't know that there's another plugin out there that quite does this. If there is, I haven't seen it yet. So I think Slate's, I think this product fills a nice void. I think it's at the right price point, to be honest. It's not $1,000. $1,000, I think you're out of the ballpark, but $500, you're in there. And I think over time, Slate, like I said, Slate makes really good stuff. I would be surprised if this was a dud, but I'm not ready to give it my, good old Uncle Dave stamp of approval yet, because that would be inappropriate. I've only had it for 30 minutes, so I'm not going to do that. But anyhow, let's see. Okay. Tony, John. Okay. You, Tony and John are going back and forth. Okay, cool. Okay. John says you may have saved me a lot of money. Okay, good. If someone saved you a lot of money here in the chat, that's wonderful. Good job. Let's see. You may be pleasantly surprised. You should be pleasantly surprised. By the way, when you render the mix, the plugin bypasses automatically. Yep, I talked about that earlier. I saw that. So you don't have to worry about the effect being processed. That's right. If you look at the screen here, fellas, I think I left it up here. Yeah. You go to the settings and it's auto bypass exported. It's enabled and it's defaulted to enabled. You could shut it off, by the way, but why would you want to do that? So what that means is if you're not in a place like Studio One, like on Studio One, you're on the listen bus, and then this feature really is irrelevant on the listen bus, because that doesn't touch what goes out the master bus. But in another DAW where it would be an effect on the master bus, you want to make sure that this thing is bypassed before you export it, and Slate already took care of that, so that's a real handy feature. As I said earlier, the old version of SonarWorks did not do that automatically, and I can't tell you how many times I would export the damn mix and forget to turn off SonarWorks, and then the mix sounds like hell. That happened to me a bunch of times. The new version of SonarWorks Reference 4, I believe, automatically disables as well. Or it doesn't automatically disable. I'm wrong about that. It pops up a message and tells you, make sure you disable it. It warns you. So that's it. But yeah, that's a good point. Right. You can also put it on the listen bus in Studio One 5. That's what I'm doing here. Studio One version 5 is the first time you had the listen bus, and that's exactly what the listen bus is for. Tony says, yeah, Uncle Dave's stamp of approval. That's right. Uncle Dave is not giving it its stamp of approval until I've played with it enough. That would be irresponsible. And again, the reason why I do that, honest to God, is really for you guys. Slate doesn't know me. I'm not on the beta testing team. I paid for my unit. And they don't sponsor me in any way. But one thing that I've noticed over the years, to my surprise, and pleasantly surprised, I'm kind of proud of it in a way, but I have a responsibility that when I tell you something is good or I really like something, that I really mean it. And it's not because someone gave me something or they paid me for a video, because as I said in other live streams, I have never taken a penny from a company to do a video. Never once. I've been offered many times. I turn it down. Because once you do that, then I feel like I'm obligated to maybe highlight all the things that are really great about the product, but not really being straightforward about maybe some of the things I don't like about the product, and it becomes a very weird situation. The only time I will ever get anything for free is sometimes there will be plugins where that happens, and I always make sure I say that up front. And my arrangement with every plugin company is I say what I want to say. If I don't think the plugin's any good and it sucks, you never see the video, because I'm not a guy that's going to come on here and bash a company. If I like it, but there's some things I would correct about it, I will say that in a video. And perfect example of that, if you watch last Friday's Plugin Review Friday, I did the second video of the new and improved United Front DAW plugin. You might remember about 2 or 3 or 4 months ago when the original version came out, they had reached out to me, United. They're a great company, by the way. They've given me lots of plugins to review. And the first plugin that I did for them was the original front DAW, and it was a great plugin. But the thing that wasn't so good about the plugin is it didn't have an output knob. So when you couldn't level match the plugin. And I said that in the review. They took that to heart and actually went back and made a correction and added an output knob so you can level match the plugin. And I just did the re-review of that last week, and it's much better. They did that based on my video that I gave them. So in other words, I will say something about a product that I don't like, I think can be improved if I like the product. But generally, I have to like the product or you're not going to see it on the YouTube channel, because what I have found over the last couple of years is when I tell you guys something is good, within 3 days, I get, I don't know, depending on what it is, a couple of emails, sometimes several emails about, hey, I went out and bought this thing because of your video, or you said something on a live stream and I picked it up. And so I feel like I have a responsibility. I'm not a YouTube demo guy. That's not what I do. I pay for this shit like this. I bought this myself because I think it could be a good tool for you guys. If it's not a good tool, or if I don't like it, if I were to hate it, there would never be a review of the video. I don't think I'm going to hate it. But let's say after 2 or 3 weeks, I say, you know what? I really like it, but fill in what I think could be better or what I don't like about it. That will be in a video, and it'll give you guys my unbiased opinion so you can make an informed decision for yourself. Because if you're going to run out and buy this thing based on the fact that I told you it was good, I want to be honest. And I'm not going to just, so in other words, I'm not going to do a video on a product like this that, you know, we've talked about in the chat here with people that have been on the beta testing team that will say themselves, you need to spend time with this thing before you pass judgment, good or bad, right? And that is true with a product like this. And so when I see YouTube videos out there that the thing hasn't even been out a week yet, and they're already telling you it's the best thing since sliced bread, they haven't spent enough time with it. Or they're just, you know, or they're looking for clicks or whatever. And I'm not trying to be saying anything negative about those channels because they're all great. I'm not trying to say that. What I'm saying is I don't think you can have the product, have never used it, and in 30 minutes go, wow, and jump on YouTube and tell everyone how great it is and you should run out and buy it. I think that's irresponsible with a product like this. And so I want to be responsible and tell you what I really think. And I think it'll be good. I would be surprised if I didn't like it. But if I don't like it, I will tell you that. And, you know, and then you guys can decide whether you want to go out and buy it. Now, you may have already heard enough here tonight and read some stuff in the chat. You may run out and buy it. I don't think you would be gambling your money away. I think you're pretty safe if you're in the market for something like this. Slate Digital, they make good stuff. I mean, you know, I use their plugins on every single thing I do. They make good stuff. I think you would be a pretty safe bet. I think you may find it interesting if you have the budget to do it. If you're in the market for a new set of headphones and you have $400 or $500, this might be something to look at. But if you're going to do that, make sure you spend time with it. Make sure you really get an opportunity to learn it before you go and try to do all kinds of crazy mixes with it. Really get a chance to learn it first. That would be my suggestion. And that's what Uncle Dave says. And that's why we love Uncle Dave. Yeah, well, I love all you guys too. I just try to help you guys as much as humanly possible. I really do, because you guys support me. Most of you here, if not all of you, have been to you've been to my website. You buy my training courses. You come to me. You invest your money in me, and so I want to try to be as helpful as I can to you and as transparent as I can with you. I really, really want to make sure that this channel always does that. And the bigger the YouTube channel gets, and I'm not very big, I got 45,000 subs or whatever, but since I hit about 30,000 subs, I have companies reaching out to me every single week. Not the big ones, not Steven Slate. I'm not big enough for him to even know who I am. But a lot of these smaller companies, third-party companies, both software and hardware companies. I've had a couple of recent companies, different parts of Europe, who are developing hardware compressors and EQs and things have reached out to me. They want me to try their stuff. And, you know, we'll see. There may be some new gear in the studio soon that I'll be able to show you guys if I think this stuff is any good. But the first thing I tell every one of these companies is, look, I don't want money. My compensation for the video, if I like it, is to either get the gear for free if I want to keep it, or get it at a discount. Or give me some kind of a discount code that I can give my followers. So if they want to buy the gear, they can get it at a discount, something to try to help you guys, unless I really need the gear or really want the gear, but that rarely happens. And with the plugin companies, I won't even do a review for a plugin company unless they give me licenses to give away at mixingmadeeasy.net. That's just like the standard now. If there's a company who wants me to try their plugin, and if I like it, they got to give me my plugin for free, and then they have to give me 3 licenses at least to give away as part of our mixing contest. And like I said, Arteri or Artura, or however you say it, gave me 15 licenses and were very generous. United gave me 12 licenses, were very generous. All their different plugins, and I'm going to be giving those away because I think their products are really good. But they don't pay me. That's how they pay me, and I try to give that to you. So that's how we do it here. That's how we do it. Hey, Lucas, what's up? Lucas says, there's Waves Abbey Road plugin similar to this, right? You have even used your webcam to move your head in the studio. That's true. And I did a review of that. It's on the YouTube channel. And I did a live stream broadcast where we did this, and I was turning my head and you guys were hearing the sound move. Great plugin. Here's the difference between this and that. As I said a little earlier, that Abbey Road is the Abbey Road control room, which, by the way, is one of the most famous mixing rooms on the planet. So, hey, not too shabby, right? But it's only Abbey Road. This Slate plugin, if I can get back to my screen here, is many more listening environments. NRG, if you haven't seen this before. Oh, okay. We have Archon. We have Howie Weinberg's mastering room. We have an electric car, an SUV, something that represents maybe a hi-fi audiophile. Those are pretty cool speakers, huh? And we have different environments, as well as different modeled headphones, and the boombox, which is very helpful, and a club, which is pretty cool. So the Abbey Road is really just Abbey Road. This, and you don't know how the mix translates outside of Abbey Road. This, you can audition, if you will. You're mix in different environments. That's what makes this different. But the Abbey Road is a cool plugin, by the way. I have it. It is cool. Any other questions? How long have we been on here? An hour, right? At least an hour. Probably about an hour. So I do appreciate you guys joining me for this impromptu, unscheduled live stream. And our first look here at the VSX by Slate Digital. Again, more information to come at a later time, as I said. And then also, take a moment, bow your head and pay respect to probably, if not one of the greatest guitar players to ever pick up the instrument, and bless all us music lovers with his guitar playing, Mr. Eddie Van Halen. And again, it's almost still shocking. I can't believe Eddie Van Halen's dead. I can't even believe that. When I think of all the times in the mid '80s walking to school with Van Halen cassettes in my pocket, I mean, it really is. It's just shocking. And I think I posted on Facebook today. I remember I've seen Van Halen live a few times. The first time I saw Van Halen was with Sammy Hagar. It was in 1986 at the Live Without a Net. So they've had a couple of video concerts that were commercially released over the years. The first one was the concert called Live Without a Net from the New Haven Memorial Coliseum in New Haven, Connecticut, literally 15 or 20 minutes from my childhood home. And that's where I saw Van Halen. They were there for 2 nights, and they filmed both nights, and I think they spliced it together. I was there on the second night, and I sat 12th row on the floor on Eddie's side of the stage. And even though Eddie, during those days, was just, all over the place. I mean, he didn't really stand in front of me for very long. But I was 12th row on his side of the stage. And I remember thinking then, and that was the first Van Halen tour with Sammy Hagar. And what was interesting about that tour was that with the exception of one song, I believe, they didn't play any old Van Halen, no David Lee Roth Van Halen. They played the entire 5150 record that came out. I think it either just gotten released or was about to be released. Like if it was just released, I wasn't familiar with the music. It was like all brand new music. They played a couple of cover tunes. They played a Sammy Hagar tune. And I think the only song, if I remember right, they played by the David Lee Roth Van Halen was Jump. They played Jump. And I think it was the last song, if I remember right, or second to last song. And I remember, that's when he was still playing the white, the Frankenstrat, the red, white, and red and white guitar, still the famous one. He wasn't playing. There was no PV Wolfgangs or the EVH Wolfgang guitars. Those didn't exist back in 1986. I don't even think he was playing a Music Man back then. He was playing the old school, the thing you saw him, the thing he's made famous. The old Frankenstrat. And I remember thinking to myself at that time, I remember saying, I mean, this guy's like from another planet. I mean, just watching, I wasn't a real heavy, I was just getting into playing guitar at that time. So I wasn't a schooled guitar player that could really appreciate from a guitar player's perspective how technically good he was. I was amazed how much how mobile he was on stage. A guy just never stopped running around, and it seemed like he never missed a note. I mean, to play the way he plays, and he wasn't standing still looking at the neck and concentrating on what he was playing. I mean, it was like, this guy was like, like the Speedy Gonzalez, man, just all over the stage. It was insane. And I was like, what a party band. What a great player. And that was the first experience I had. And what a concert that was. And to be that close to him and watching him play, I was just like, whoa. The only time he ever sat still and played anything where he was really kind of concentrating is when he did his guitar solo, where he would do Eruption and Cathedral and all that. He sat on the front, not on the front of the stage, but this little riser, kind of off to my left. And he would sit down and put the guitar in his lap and he would kind of look at what he was playing. But that was the only time. This guy was everywhere, running and jumping and making a racket and all over the place. And the guy was just like, there's nobody like him. I remember thinking this guy's from a whole nother planet. This guy's he's like from a whole nother planet, man. And that was the first time I saw Van Halen. Second time or third time, and I saw Van Halen a few times in the 90s. I saw Van Halen in 1998 with Gary Cherone. If any of you Van Halen fans remember that. Everyone bashes that Van Halen 3 record. I got to tell you, I actually like that record, and I really like the show. And the reason why I really like that show, for all you Van Halen aficionados, it was that was the first time since Sammy Hagar left the band, all through the Sammy Hagar years, they only played very few older Van Halen tunes, David Lee Roth. Sammy Hagar did not want to do that era. In a way, the story kind of goes is the Van Halen brothers didn't want to play that stuff anymore. They were, David Lee Roth was the enemy. They wanted to put the Roth years kind of behind them, and they wanted to make new music with Sammy, and that they weren't going to play a lot of songs. Now, there were a couple in the set. Ain't Talking About Love, Jump, Panama in later years, but that was really it. When Sammy left the band and Gary Cherone came into the band, because Gary had only written one record with them, Gary covered all the eras of Van Halen. A lot of the old David Lee Roth tunes, a lot of the Sammy tunes, and then ones off the new record. And it was the first time since David Lee Roth left the band that you actually saw Van Halen live playing a decent set of their old school catalog. And for a kid back then who didn't see Van Halen with David Lee Roth in the early 80s, I was a little too young for that. Didn't see him till Sammy. It was really cool to see the 1998 tour with Gary Cherone and to hear songs like Someone Give Me a Doctor and Romeo Delight and Unchained and Mean Streets and Ain't Talking About Love and Running with the Devil and all those classic songs off the first 4 or 5 Van Halen records, to see those perform live, even though it was with Gary Cherone, who I thought did a good job, by the way. Everyone bashes him. I like Gary Cherone. And I thought the record was okay. Commercially, it was a bomb, but I thought it was good. I liked Van Halen, and I liked the new direction they were going in at that time. So that was the second time I saw Van Halen. And I sat 7th row on Michael Anthony's side of the stage. Eddie was a little less mobile then, but he did come over to my side of the stage a couple of times, and it was cool to see him, that close again, 7th row, and to see him do Mean Streets and the intro to Mean Streets. It was really cool. And then the next time I saw Van Halen was in the 2004 reunion tour with Sammy Hagar, where he was really, it was sad. It was sad to see him in the condition that he was in. I guess he was really heavy drinking still at that time, and he was a mess. He looked disheveled. He lost a ton of weight. He was like skin and bones. I mean, he looked like he literally looked like he woke out of bed and rolled onto the stage. His playing is, sloppy. There's lots of interviews with Sammy Hagar saying that during those times, like, they would be playing a song and he'd be playing a whole different song. And I saw them in the Meadowlands in New Jersey. I didn't have great seats for that, but I remember just being cool that we were there and seeing Sammy come back to the band. And it was a good show, but not a great showing by Eddie Van Halen at all. And that tour ended up, going kaplooey, and that was that. And then the last time I saw them was on with David Lee Roth on the reunion in 2007. And that was a lot of fun. I didn't have great seats for that, but it was really cool. And Eddie was in, rare form as far as his playing. I know he was still kind of drinking a little, but he cleaned up. He got his, unfortunately, Michael Anthony wasn't in the band, but his son, Wolfgang Van Halen, was in the band, as everybody knows. And his playing was great. And it was cool to see Dave back in the band, although Dave had, lost a lot of, what little vocal ability he had live, even in the 80s. It was gone by the time they got back together. But it was a good show. And it was cool, again, to see the original three playing the old classic Van Halen and playing some songs that they didn't do even back in the heyday live. Things like I'll Wait from 1984 and things like that. So those are the 4 times that I saw Van Halen. And again, there's always great to see him. And, they've been really quiet over the last 5 years or so. And there's always rumors that Van Halen was sick, and that, these rumors have been around for a while. And I guess he had throat cancer once before and somehow went into remission, and then it came back, or who knows what the real story is, but that's what's kind of been said. And so to see him pass away at such a young age, at 65, is, really heartbreaking. And honestly, again, he was a guy was a big time chain smoker, huge alcoholic for many years. And so, he really abused himself early on in his life. And unfortunately, I'm sure that had a part in, the whole thing with cancer. And it's just such a shame, to see someone like that, at such a young age. And again, unfortunately, because of his illness, really has been dormant as far as music goes for a good part of 20 years. I mean, with the exception of the record they put out with David Lee Roth when they got back together, which really was really a rehash of old demo material. Outside of that record, they didn't put out a new record since 1998. And you think, man, all the music that was in that guy who wrote all that music, and you would have hoped, in the last 20 years or 25 years to only get one new studio album out of him. What a shame. And you got to think somewhere in his archives, much like with Hendrix, there's probably a vault of songs that weren't released and musical pieces and stuff. And maybe one day the family will let that see the light of day. Let's hope so. And maybe they get it packaged up in a way where people can enjoy it. But unfortunately, to not see him produce music in all those years is really kind of shame. Again, one of the greatest people to ever pick up the instrument, and to see him not create right up to the end of his life, is, at least in a public fashion, is a little sad. But it goes, prayers obviously go out to his family, and his son, and it's a shame. I mean, It's a funny thing. Again, I know a lot of you guys, here, and some of you, I see some names here tonight I don't recognize, which is great if this is your first time here. Usually our live streams are a lot more upbeat. We do a lot more mixing work, and tonight's a little bit of a different thing. Go back to the chat here. So usually the live streams aren't like this. So if this is your first time here, sorry if it's kind of a down live stream. But again, I lost my train of thought. To see that happen to someone. Oh, I was just going to say, it's such a young age. It really puts things in perspective. Especially when you get up. I know, for me, when I turned 50, earlier this year, you start to think of things a little bit differently. And, I don't want to be morbid or anything, but you start to think about your mortality, and, 50 is still young. 65 is still young, and so you start to, you start to think about things in life a little bit differently. I know at least that was for me. I know once I was approaching 50, the last, 48, 49, by the time I hit 50, I look at things in a much different light, and have for a while now, that, you just never know. And so, if you want to do something in life, now's the time to do it. When do you do it if not now, right? And so anyway, without getting too philosophical, but, hopefully, one day we'll see some music come out of the Van Halen vaults that we haven't seen before. And it's a shame, and I'm sure it's going to it's probably hit a lot of us, and I'm sure a lot of you guys here, for the next week or two, it's all we're going to be thinking about. We lost Tom Petty recently, David Bowie, now Eddie Van Halen. It's like all our rock heroes are, they're all passing. And unfortunately, some of these guys are not living till their 80s and 90s. They're falling off at 65, 70. It's a shame. It's a shame. So anyway, what are you going to do? Tony says, "Hey Dave, do you have these live streams every day?" Oh, no. I don't have the time for that. No, live streams, used to be, something that I would do almost weekly. And then there became a point in time where I just got too busy. And now I do them maybe monthly. I seem like when I do them a little less frequently, more people show up, more people interact, more people are here. And that's really what it's about, is to get people involved. So I don't do these every day. I don't have the time to do them every day. But I try to do them somewhat regularly, somewhat regular. So, okay. John says, now I have to convince my wife to let me spend $500. Sad face. Yeah. Well, yeah, you know what though? $500, you'll get something really cool. Be extra nice to your wife, and I'm sure she'll let you do it. Let's see. Lucas says there's Waves Abbey Road publicity. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. We talked about that already. Okay. John Clark says, bye guys. See you later, John. RIP EVH. Yes. Thanks, John. And good luck to you. Let's see. John says, I appreciate your truthfulness and fair opinion on gear. Great show as always. Oh, thanks, man. Yep. I will always be honest and truthful with you guys. I promise you that. I'm not, there's too many other YouTube channels that will do the other thing. I'm really here to help you guys and to be honest, or as honest, and again, I'm one guy's opinion. I may say something is great and you may hate it, but I try to really give you an informed, unbiased decision. No one's paying me to say anything good about a product. Trust me. William says, I feel like I lost a good friend today. Yeah, me too. Me too. Isn't that funny how we really don't know? We don't know. I don't know Eddie Van Halen, but you do when you reflect back and again, not to get too sad again on everybody, but when you reflect back and you go, I grew up with that music. It's the same. It'll be the same thing, but it'll probably even hit me heavier when Jimmy Page eventually, God forbid, he's in his 70s now, when he is no longer with us. I grew up listening to Led Zeppelin and Van Halen. There wasn't many rock bands in those days that I didn't listen to. Those were the two main ones. And then, the Judas Priest and the Iron Maidens came a little bit later. I was into them for a bit. But really, music and rock music and being a musician, I should say, all started for me with Led Zeppelin and then Van Halen. And, it's a really weird thing when it gets you kind of reflecting. You think back of all the times that you've listened to that music, and you never think, well, that person one day is no longer going to be here making more music for us to listen to. It's really weird. It's weird. It's really weird. And I know there's a lot of guitar YouTube channels out there that are really, paying some nice tributes. And again, we're not a guitar related channel here, but we're all musicians here and we're all music lovers. And this is part of, it. But, and so I thought it would be appropriate to mention it. Plus he was one of my heroes, and I know he's one of your heroes too. Rick says, I have to use your mixing tips on a lot of my projects and I've had great results. Awesome, man. That's great, Rick. I don't know which tips you're talking about, but that's great. And if you haven't checked out any of my training courses, you ought to at homerecordingmadeeasy.com. I get a lot more in depth than I do here on YouTube, but I'm glad to hear that it's helped you. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for saying that. So anyway, I don't know how long we've been on here. Probably about an hour and a half. So I'm going to run. I'm going to eat dinner. I want to thank all of you for joining me tonight and for at least checking out this the Slate stuff for a bit. Again, we'll do more in the future. And thanks for letting me talk a little bit about one of my guitar heroes. And, if you're feeling sad about it too, I'm with you. And hey, you know what? Want to make yourself feel better? Go listen to a bunch of Van Halen through the week and over the weekend. Keep your playlist on Van Halen for the next 4 or 5 days and just reflect on, take for granted how, again, what a mark that individual left on the music industry, on the guitar industry, and how many millions and millions and millions of guitar players have been influenced and people who picked up the guitar only because of Eddie Van Halen. And so when you think of it like that, wow, what a huge loss. And so listen to a lot of Van Halen this week. Reflect on it, enjoy it, and know that he's in a better place. And like I said, hopefully we'll hear some more music coming out of that camp one day coming soon, because I'm sure there's a ton of unreleased stuff, tons of it. And I got to imagine one day, hopefully, some of that stuff will see the light of day and Eddie will live on, in that respect. So anyway, I will definitely see you guys soon. Thank you so much for all of your support as always. Make sure you go to homerecordingmadeeasy.com. If you haven't been there recently, there's been some new courses that have been updated for 2020, mastering, compression, and EQ in particular. New YouTube videos are coming out twice a week, and stay tuned to that for that. And if you have any questions, you guys know where to find me. Leave comments, hit me up on email, and I'd be glad to help you in any way I can. Okay? Talk to you guys soon. See you later.